Happy weekend, everybody out there in keyboard land. This is Badmark with Tech out one more time to give you a video, hopefully something that you enjoy. Today, I am working on what some of you might find extremely familiar, a Royal Kludge RK61. This is a single color. It says white, but it's more of a blue-white. Oh no, actually, it's RGB. Never mind. It's the white colored board. It's a little early in the morning and I haven't had my full amount of coffee. So this is a familiar board. This can be had anywhere from 25 to 45. I think this one I bought for a Black Friday sale. Just real quick, I'm sure there's plenty of unboxings, but just so you know, this is a hot swappable version. It comes with the round switches. It comes with a cable. It also does come with a puller, or it usually does. I may have taken it out already. So not a very good unboxing there, Buckman. So whatever. And we get a little measuring ruler. But, okay. So anyway, this is a brown switched, but it's a hot swap version of the RK61, and it's the wire only version. So like I said, I bought this on a deal for Black Friday, but have had a friend that came to me and said, hey, I want a cutesy keyboard, and showed her this one, and she was like, yeah, but I want it clicky but not too clicky. So I didn't have too many tactiles to go from, but I did have a set of these, which is the Akko Ocean Blue. Now, I don't know how many of you folks out there, I mean, I know that I am starting to get into the down the rabbit hole of switches, and have found that there are definitely some good switches out there, and there's definitely some bad switches out there. But one thing I can say, at the price proposition that Akko offers, their switches are actually far superior than a Gateron. Oh, what, did I just say that? Yes. I think for the price, for what you get, an Akko switch is better than a Gateron switch. There, I said it. They're manufactured by TTC. I know there was a rumor going out there for a little while that they were manufactured by Otemu, but as far as I've been confirmed now, Akko switches are manufactured by TTC, so they're generic TTCs. But this one, it's a tactile. It's a clicky actually, but it's a very light clicky. Actually, it's a tactile switch that has a bit of a click. My friend really liked these, so decided to go with these as the switches to replace the browns that are in here. Now, obviously, out of the box, this is not necessarily the best board. That's why we've gone ahead and gotten our set of tools here, because we are going to be doing luing, some priming, and some modifying to make this board sound as good as it gets. And she wanted a cutesy theme, and so these are the keycaps that have been printed out, been picked out. It's just a cheap Miami keycaps, not with the shine through. She had to have the shine through. So I used to have shine through, but now it's really just no big deal either way. So let me go ahead and grab my tools here so I can start pulling some keycaps off, and we can get this party started. So yeah, so this is just going to be a basic modification of the RK61 board. A lot of this I'll probably just fast forward through. But if you guys have any questions, anything at all, please throw them down in the comments or come over on Budget Keybs and ask me, and I will be glad to answer it to the best of my ability. So let's get to pulling some cops off, huh? Had to go find my handy dandy switch puller. I did pull out a brown switch, but I don't know what I did with it now. Oh, there it is. I just lost a couple of blues. Put these back in. Now, with these particular blues, they actually lose some of their tactility if they're lubed. They are some of the few switches that are actually just fine stock. So I am not going to be lubing those, but we are definitely going to be doing some improvement to this keyboard. Now let's go ahead and pull out some switches, huh? So we can see there's not even any foam between the plate and the PCB. That's honestly criminal. Let's go ahead and pull these puppies out. We are going to need some clippers. I know I have a pair around here somewhere. And we're going to need some super lube. I know everybody's all about the Krytox, but that's not the only dielectric grease that works for keyboards out there, just so. I'm sure a lot of you folks have been doing this for a while. No. That for some reason, I don't know, somebody said, well, Krytox the best, so that's all we should use. But that's not the case. It really isn't. There's tons of dielectric greases, and they cost a lot less than $15 for a couple of grams. Let me tell you that. I mean, these prices that I've seen on some of these lubes, dielectric lubes and greases and oils, it's ridiculous. I've been using this stuff for years. I never paid that much. I never will. Anyway, let's go ahead and do what are we gonna do? We're gonna clip these puppies and make them right. Oh look, there's actually a tiny amount of grease on there, but whatever. We're gonna clean them off. But see, they still got the feet. So what we're gonna do is modification. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But basically, we're going to find little feet with the legs. Why are you not focusing? And we're going to clip off both of those legs that have those little feet sticking out. Oh, this one only has that one. Alright. I've seen some changes. I've actually seen some stock ones that come without those little feet anymore, so but these actually only seem to have one, because no, I guess that one does have a little tab. Alright, so I'm going to clip this little tab off, and I'm going to clip this entire leg off. Go back to this one and clip that little foot off. Yeah, I see it. Alright, so now those have been clipped. Now these are lube, yay, whatever. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to go ahead and give it a dip of my own stuff. Alright, so yeah, just the basic super lube. This is grade 2 dielectric grease. I like to dip one end in there, and then we're going to do, I probably should have done this first, make sure that we've got basically the 2 holes sticking up. Oh, I just got to go in this way. Come on, Poindexter. We slide it in there and get it to the point where we can line it up so that we can stick this right down. We want to make sure that it's going all the way through. Alright, and once we do make sure, then we can go ahead and turn and clip. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the other side. Set it down because I haven't put in the legs here first. So yeah, we want the top to line up. You see the hole going in right there. Boom. Alright. So we go ahead in straight. Make sure that we're going all the way through. Once we make sure we're going all the way through, we turn and make sure to clip in, going the same direction where the other one's going. All right, now, of course, I do not see my tape, which should just be right here because it's something that I use on a regular basis. Alright, I got my medical tape. Now a lot of people can do this with band-aids, but I prefer medical tape because I've got a house full of kids and we go through band-aids. Much cheaper to just use medical tape and not throw away band-aids, because you end up throwing away most of the band-aid because you're really only using the medically adhesive part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut some strips. Might cut a few more than I actually need. Pair of scissors. Alright. And what we're going to do here, there's two different things we're going to do in case you haven't seen these before. One is we're going to make pads for where those stabilizer legs are going to land inside of the keyboard. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put, this is basically a grade 1, or a grade 0, I'm sorry, of grease, which just means the viscosity. This is more of an oil than an actual grease, but it's, again, it's dielectric. Then we're also going to go and take and make 2 more strips. Obviously, I try to keep them as straight as possible, but they don't always stay. Alright. And with these 2 strips, what we're going to try to do is basically make that spot where the stabilizers clip on the plate. We want that to be as snug as possible. And these pieces don't have to be all that big. We really just want it to be right around the spot where the stabilizer are actually going to clip into. So here we can just like that. Oh, and there go my glasses. And then wrap it in. Alright, see? So we're basically just making that spot where the stabilizer bar is going to clip into. It's going to be a little bit tighter. Not too tight where it won't be able to go in, but tight enough to where the stabilizer will actually be stable. So we want to do these for all 4 spots where the stabilizers are touching the plate. There's a little bit of grease still left on there. That's why it was giving me a bit of pain to want to stick. This piece may not end up sticking. I may have to cut another one. Too bad, because I was basically going to use everything I cut there. Yeah, this one has too much oil now to be able to stick anywhere. So let's see about this one. must be some grease below there as well. Oh yeah, I definitely see it. All right, so let's get a Q-tip out and just get the rest of that stuff out. Of course, I don't have a Q-tip, so extra grease in there that's just not helping us. All right, let's go ahead and cut another strip. Stay on there for a second before I actually start to go below. Or I may just leave them like that and let the clip actually set it. So, then we're going to go ahead and go try to clip these puppies back in. Oh, they clipped them nice and tight. And so I'm going to press these back in. Notice how each of these wobble. Bring it closer. Notice the wobble on that? It's a stabilizer. Stabilizers should not be wobbly. Alright, so let's look at the ones we just worked on. They barely don't move. I mean, a stabilizer is supposed to be stable. And that's what a stable stabilizer looks like. Then go ahead and just tuck these back in. Probably just clip them off since we don't need that extra there. Oh, actually that came off altogether. Doesn't seem to be that this one is, but that one didn't. So let's just go ahead and fix that real quick. Alright, and then repeat 4 more times. Alright, now we've got some stable stabilizers. The next thing we gotta do is get rid of all this hollowness inside of this case. Since we're doing a mod job, I do believe there's a screw in there, right? We're going to lift up that pulley with, well, I can't find anything in my little office that would be a miracle. Ah, there is no screw there. That was unnecessary. Now I do this because some people are like, what? Why is there no sticker on the bottom? No serial number. So whenever I do modify, there are some cases that actually put a screw underneath their label, but apparently this one doesn't. So that's not a concern for us today. So now we need, of course it's underneath everything, my handy dandy toolkit. And let's put a Phillips screw head in here. No, this is not the magic stick. This is about half the cost of the magic stick, and it does the job. So I am a frugal shopper, as those of you who follow me on the regular will find. I just don't feel like paying full price for a lot of things. I mean, and if I can get it at a discount rate, I will, but I will not receive free items from manufacturers and then give them an honest review. If I do receive items, because I know I've already had manufacturers reach out to me about sending me sample products, I will review them. I will give as much of an honest opinion as I can, but then I will give them away, because the only items that I want to review truly are items that I spent the money on. Whether I, got it on a discount or not, I don't think it should be the case, but I want to be the consumer reviewer. I think it's difficult to be completely unbiased. No matter what you say, we're all human, and if you receive something for free, unfortunately, I mean, for most of us, unless you're a sociopath, we have that intrinsic need to basically, give thanks to that person that gave us a gift. So even if we have negative things, we might, things that we'd say about the particular keyboard or product, we may just bypass it because we don't want to, you know, hurt the feelings of the individual or the company that gave us, you know, this board, even though it's to review and to be honest. But all right, so now we have a bottom case here. Like I said, we've got a pretty good amount of space. Now we have different options to go. Obviously, as you can see, there is absolutely no foam between the plate and the PCB. So I'm going to go ahead and set that aside because that's going to be a project that we're going to do. But right here, we have the situation where we have, there's just not enough space for me, sir. Mr. Bill, Mr. Bill. So what we've got here is a board that I think would actually do best by doing my little silicone pennyweight trick. Alright, so I'm going to put a piece of tape over the USB-C port. I want to make sure we don't fill that up. I'm going to put pieces of tape over the screw holes just to make sure we don't accidentally pour anything into those puppies, because that would be a pain to dig out. And I mean, these are plastic. Why they don't put, I mean, what would it cost them? 10, 12 more cents to put in actual metal rivets in there? Well, actually, this is where the screw hole goes into. They go into the metal post. Ah, I take that back. Never mind, they are going into, yeah, they are going into metal. So, I'm looking at the front end of the post, not the back end of the post, so my bad. Still, these could break, but I don't want to get any silicone in there. Alright, so now that we've got the holes taped off, since we're dealing with a wired version, we do not have a battery in here. There is a wireless version. I've seen some that actually have the same motherboard, and all it's really missing is the battery. This does not appear to be one of them, because I do not see the hookup for the oh, look at that. Well, we will fix that when we take this apart. So because we don't have the battery to worry about in this one, it actually makes it a little bit easier. There's a couple different ways to go about it with the battery. If the battery's really stuck in there, obviously do not use any metal tools to try to pull it out. You puncture that thing, it can turn into an instant fire. So I would say don't use those. What I like to do for weight on these, I mean, so but if you can't pull it out, then pull it out and just tape off the area, or at least measure it so that you can cut it out of the silicone once it's dried up. Now I do like to do this. I know it sounds kind of silly, especially now that we're in a coin shortage. That's not going to fit. As long as you're not overlapping any coins, just and if you can actually find any coins, that is. See right there, that's an overlap. I don't like it on the edges. I don't like them overlapping at all or going up on top of the edges. They don't have to be tight. Like I said, it's just a matter of throwing in some pennies here. Now, why am I doing this? Not only does this give this a little bit more girth and weight when, you know, we're actually picking up the keyboard and using it, but it actually helps to improve the sound profile of the keyboard. And I did lose a pen. And of course, I just ran my head into my camera. Alright. So let's just continue, just like I said, just spreading pennies apart. The most important thing I'm trying to do is just get even on both sides. I don't want one side to be noticeably heavier than the other, short of counting how many pennies are on each side of, because it's hard to kind of tell the middle. I mean, you'd assume that that's the middle, but the middle's more like right here. So, so I kind of do more eyeballing, although a couple times I've caught myself actually counting. So, I usually use between, depending on the size of the keyboard, between 70 cents and up to $1.20. So it really depends. Now, I did do one layered, and that one, it just turned out too heavy. I didn't like it. Luckily, I was able to just pull the silicone out, put a new layer, dig the pennies out of the silicone, and redo it. I think actually on this one though, it might work. The other one was just very tight. This one actually has quite a good amount of volume available in here. So, but I'm not going to try it this time. Maybe on the next RK61 build we'll give it a shot. But on this one, we're just going to stay to what we know does work. So, got 2 on that side, 2 on that side. Alright, because if I add anything else, they're going to be on the edge. No, I don't want that. So, I want the edge there. I just want to do our best not to overlap them. That looks to be it. I know it looks a little uneven. Oh, we can stick a little penny. That one's, those are still not on the edge. And it looks roughly about the same. I'd like to do one more penny there, but I think, see, because I do have 2 pennies there, but I've got them angled. That's how that works. And, oh, yep, I was able to do it. Alright. Alright, that's looking good. So, now comes the fun part. Whoa! It's a nice little keyboard stand. What do you guys think of that, huh? Did you guys buy that for a couple bucks? Huh? Hold your keyboards. I mean, it holds even a GMMK Pro without busting. I like it. Anyway, now we pull out our A and B 1-to-1 ratio silicone rubber. Now, be careful out there. My wife, she's making custom caps. So there's a difference between A and B silicone and A and B resin. Resin is the hard stuff, silicone is the soft rubber stuff. Just FYI. Thankfully, we bought both. Now these are a 1-to-1, and I have, oh, I spoke too soon. Alright, so now that we've got our silicone, we're going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and do part A. And here, basically what we want to do, I mean, you can pull out a ruler or caliper and try to gauge the distance, but we want to be basically 3/4 up the way of the post, or even below that. Just do not go above 3/4, and if you're not sure, don't go above half. That's basically the rule of thumb, because you do want a little bit of space. There are, you know, the hot swap sockets underneath, or the pins if you're doing soldered. You do need a little bit of space. I mean, obviously, if we could, you know, exactly mold it to where it actually fits perfectly for the PCB, that would be perfect. But we're not going to dip our PCB into setting resin. So because this is a 1-to-1 ratio, I don't know if you guys know this about solo cups, but each of these lines is a measurement. I basically, for most keyboards, or 60%, doing to this line or halfway to this line. This one is pretty deeper, so I'm going to go about 3/4 to this line. Obviously, I'm eyeballing it. I'm going to pour it into one, and then I'm going to pour part A or part B into it, and then mix them together. Oh yeah, I do need something to mix them together with. Oh, I'm gonna get that. I've used Q-tips. I've used plastic spoons. Whatever you got handy. That's the beauty of this hobby. A lot of stuff can be done from. I mean, like if you don't have silicone, I don't know if you guys know about what's called PE foam. I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's usually the foaming that comes with the storage. This will actually help as well as just your regular styrofoam. Anything that's gonna basically, you want to think of something that's going to capture sound waves. Anything that's actually where you think like a sponge or something that has a whole bunch of holes in it isn't going to provide any acoustic properties. It actually will, because the sound waves will go inside of those holes, start bouncing around, and end up staying in there. But like I said, so if you have to go with the foam method, go with the foam method, because it's still going to improve. Now, if you're going to go with foam and you're not going to be using silicone but still want to go with the pennies, you can do the pennies with a hot cut. I've done one model. I'm still actually working on a video. It's a long video. I've got a lot of content, where I took an $8.99 Amazon keyboard that actually had hot swap sockets, which excuse me, but actually turned it into a very decent 60%. And that video will be coming soon enough. But I didn't, that was before I was doing silicone. So I used pennies, hot glue, and foam. So alright, so we're going to have the part A. We're going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm going to eyeball it to about 3/4 of the way full. Actually, no, I think I'm going to go half. I think half should be enough. Alright. But basically, wherever I got this to is where I want to match. Alright, so yeah, I've got about a little above half there. So that was part A. Tighten them up. Make sure to tighten them up. Oxygen will make these things degrade really quick. So keep that little plastic paper on there. Make sure to keep that seal good, because I've actually opened these to where they're not set, but they're not going to set anymore. So alright, so we're going to try to match that 3/4 pour in there as close as we can. I actually do have, or had, measuring cups, but unfortunately they met an early demise. Oh, just a tad more. I think I'm at 3/4 there. And I also like to do this because I'm using the same bottles. I mean, obviously it takes a second to settle, but I like to see that for the most part I am at about the same level. Looks like a little bit more than another. So take one cup, pour it to the other. Doesn't really matter, because now you're going to have that mixed up. It takes a while. You can help it with the spoon. Obviously, if you're doing this on a surface you don't want to get stuff on, I would recommend putting down paper, newspaper, whatever you feel to protect, because you know, this can make a holy mess if you don't do it properly. Don't follow my instructions. I'm sitting here doing it over the keyboard. This is not the best way to do it. Alright, once you think you got, I mean, as much as you can get out of there, you can get the majority out of there. You just have to be patient. And spoons, like I said, help a lot more than Q-tips. Q-tips soak up. But, well, I mean, once they're done soaking up, they'll actually help. If they're too tiny, you end up getting it all over your hands. And that's just no bueno. See, I already did a little spill over here. Go ahead and clean this up. Oh, this key mat is taking some damage. But it's still standing up, I'll tell you that. I love me my key mat. Keepmat.com. That's not a paid promotion. I just like their products, and they're good guys. All right. So now we have mixed or poured them together, and we're just gonna go ahead and give it a nice healthy mix. I mean, obviously it's mixing as it's pouring in, and you need to keep a time or pay attention to the time for each one. I've seen some that set as quick as 15 minutes. I don't like that, because if I have to get up and do something, it's kind of put me at a disadvantage. This one is a 40 to 45 minute set time, so I have enough time to work with it and enough time to pour and make any corrections should I need to. I mean, there's been a couple times I've made too little. It's better to make too little. I mean, unless you don't like throwing away money. I prefer making too little than making too much. Like this one, I think I made enough, but I actually may have made too much. But it's right at that first line, so it looks like I was just slightly above half. Put that in there. And since we have different compartments here, I like to try to do as even as possible. Mind you, this is going to pour slow, so pour a little bit in one and let it sit. Pour a little bit in another one and let it sit. Some of these, the barriers, the walls are so, they're not too tall, so the silicone's probably going to go over a lot of these, but they're probably not going to go over the higher barrier ones. Yeah, so I'm just going to try to get a little bit into each of the little spots. See, that's why we put the tape on top of the holes, because I've already gotten some to pour on top of the holes there. So here we go in with the rest of this. And just let it pour. Just let it pour. Let's capture any little gaps we might have forgotten about there. Alright, oh, we got a whole section over here. Looks like somebody's trying to get a hold of me. Alright, looks like I actually made just about enough. Yeah, because it is, okay now, and we do have some that is actually above. So, now in this situation, we want to take some out. Because if you can see here, and that's where leveling kind of comes into play, you might actually be able to pour some of this extra onto that side. Because that side is a lot more shallower if we're going towards the back. I'm going to go ahead and try to, like I said, that's why that 45-minute set time is going to work to my advantage in this situation, because I'm going to pour some over to this side. I'm going to set it back down and let it settle. See, now we're getting more on the back side, and it's gone down here. As you can see, the pieces of tape are actually above the touch those with my tool. Q-tips are extremely handy with this hobby, let me tell you. We use a little bit less because they're still quite, it's just about there. And we need, like I said, that little bit of space there so that we can make sure that the bottom parts of the PCB are not going to be intruding with anything else. So let's pour just a bit more to that side, because we're only about halfway up the post on the back. So let's go ahead, and we want to make sure that we're not going to over pour to where the edge on the back is going to go over the case and out, because that would be a huge holy mess. So it's just little bits that are coming over right now. Little bit. And obviously keep a good eye on the angle there. Alright, I think we might be good there. Alright, so now we're going to let it settle back down and see where we're at. I think we're a lot closer to where we need to be, and we might just be there. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a, I know I just poured some back over here, but we're still looking fairly good. Like I said, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just seeing. I think we've got plenty of room now. These lines are way below. All right, so we're at about the 3/4 mark here. Probably about the 3/4 mark there as well. I mean, obviously it's hard to eyeball it, but we're not even up to the USB port. That is important because basically all of the components are gonna basically be about the same depth of the USB port. So I think we're doing good here. I think we reached what we wanted to. I see one penny that doesn't have any cover, and I'm gonna kind of just do a little spreading over here. Not that it matters, no one's gonna be looking at here, but I just like these to be completely fully filled. Yeah. And I mean, some folks do this, so I'll show you that. They give it a nice little, but that's just to take any potential air bubbles out. Now we're going to set this and let it dry for the next 45 minutes, and we'll come back. I would go ahead and do the foam on the plate, but we'll get to it. So, all right, well, we're back. I didn't get to the plate while the acrylic. Oh, I just had a brain fart. While this was drying, the silicone rubber, my goodness, that's later on in the day. Been taking care of stuff. I will be doing a live stream tomorrow, but probably by the time you guys see this, it probably already will be done. Anyway, this is the keyboard. One thing that you want to test before making sure, now you can go ahead and actually pull out each piece out of here if you wanted to, but because we have the pennies in there, it can tend to be a little messy because those pennies will pull off. But as you can see, it's dry to the touch now. It's not even sticky. But one thing that we want to confirm before we go any further is to go ahead and take the plate and the PCB, and we want to make sure that we haven't put too much filler in there, meaning that the plate is no longer going to fit. So what we want to do is try that. Now we gotta take consideration of the USB-C ports. It's probably best to put it that way. All right, well, the USB-C port is lined up. Yep, it's lined up. It looks like it's in there fine. So I think we're good. I think we put just the right amount. I think any bit more and it would be a mess. Now if you find yourself having put too much of the silicone in here and you're not using the pennies, you can take the pieces out and try to, you know, just use like an X-Acto knife and try to slice them or fillet them. But to be quite honest, if you don't want to waste your time, just start from scratch. Just, you know, say, okay, this is how much I used last time, let me cut it down by a quarter or by a half. And that's just going to be a lot easier, and you can take these pieces. Now you can save them because they may come in handy on other keyboards. You might just be able to cut them and stick them in it. You never know. So don't throw those away. All right. So now we're going to be going ahead and putting that plate aside. And I kind of, I mean the case, I kind of wish I would have weighed it beforehand because it's definitely substantial now. I would say it probably weighs 3 to 4 times what it weighed on its own when I first got it. Alright, so now we have the PCB, and we should have, I think there's going to be 4 screws on here. Yeah, looks like 4 screws. And we still have, I do have a little bowl for storing screws, but I really don't know where it is at this moment. Sorry, I bumped my head. But I have another place to put them for right now. So let's go ahead and take these little puppies out. Make sure we keep them separate from the others. One. Obviously, we want to be careful not to scratch the PCB, mess up one of those lanes, and that could be the entire keyboard. But as long as you're careful, you should be fine. This one actually has 5. Yeah, it has been a while since I've modded an arcade board, I gotta be honest. Alright. 5 screws, right? That's it? Yep, that seems to be it. So now we have the plate and we have the PCB. Let's go ahead and set the PCB aside because we don't need that for the moment. Now what we're going to do is take these wonderful neon strips. Now you can buy pre-sized foam pads that are already, you know, for the different sizes, 60%, 65%. And you basically just, I mean, you might have to do a couple of little cuts, but they run $10 or more, and to me that's just a little too much. I have 2 different kinds of, basically it's a neoprene sheet with a sticker backing, and I use this cutter. I mean, I got a roll of this and another roll of a felt type that's actually a lot thinner that I use for gasket mount when I do the 3D printed. But anyway, this usually gives just enough to where there's a, I can't remember the exact width of it, but it gives just enough. I make strips out of it. Sometimes I make them a little thicker than I should, but for the most part, it, I mean, I think for the couple of rolls on the cutter, I spent less than $15. So, I did start Budget Keeps for a reason. Not because I'm cheap, but because if something can be done a little bit cheaper, why not do it a little bit cheaper? Alright, so what I'm going to do now is just kind of rough out some of the ones that I'm going to put on here. Now, I don't go too crazy and try to cover every single gap because, I mean, that would just be too much. But let's try to cover, you know, as much as we can. But anyway, the more that we cover, basically what we're doing is just more sound dampening. This neoprene foam actually has a bunch of tiny little pockets that not only, they basically help the sound waves get absorbed into there, and will dampen and give you more of that deep, you know, silent thock. I know, thock, what kind of word is thock, but you know, we're making up words every day, but guess what? At one point, every single word was made up. Alright, we're going to try to run this one at the top, and we want to do our best to not block the holes on the plate where the switches go in. Switches usually have a very low tolerance, and, you know, just moving a switch just slightly off when we're pushing it in could mean a popped hot socket. And for those of you out there who have experienced it, you know you don't want to. Obviously there are fixes and ways around it, but it is an ugly thing, ugly feeling. So one of the most important things I tell people getting into this hobby is to just learn how to properly do hot swaps. I mean, just because, you know, you have the ability to just push it in there and push it in there good and hard doesn't mean that you should. And I've just seen too many times where people have gotten they're just too much in a hurry, and they get in there and, oh, why isn't this switch working? Why isn't this entire row working? Depending on which hot swap socket they popped off, and then they try to fix it and just make it even worse. So, yep, that's an ugly thing, I say. Alright, so we got the top row there taken care of. Now, another thing about the beauty of this is that, you know, we get little strips, so we kind of just, you know, go along. It's almost like making a little puzzle. Obviously, I try not to double up. I want to try to make a single layer. Doubling up would obviously mean that we'd be using up space that, you know, make it that much closer to the PCB, and we don't want to squish it. It's going to give us a tighter feeling, and this isn't a gasket mount. I'm sorry, I'm just clipping the edge of that. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference, but I'd rather it not go beyond the border of the plate itself, even if it's a little bit shorter. That way it's not going to cause any problem once we put it back in the case. Alright, so So let's keep on going. So now we got a fat strip. This one's really fat. Let's try to find a skinnier one. All right. This one's even too fat. Yeah. Some of these fat ones, what we do is we can either do it by hand, which I don't do a very straight cut, but it's kind of hard to cut them really straight when they're this tiny. But we can always try anyway. Like I said, this material is fairly cheap. But I mean, if you want to save yourself, I mean, time is money. I hate to use that old saying, but that is a truth. So if the time that you spend doing it is taken away from, you know, more important things, say family, work, whatever, then perhaps it is worth the time to, I mean, the little bit of extra money and just buy it instead of actually doing the work oneself. But I believe that's something for everyone to decide independently and to make a decision. I try to weigh out my time. This is my hobby. I work a certain amount of time, and then I put a certain amount of time into my hobby, which I enjoy in it, and it brings me a satisfaction. All right, yeah, this is, see, sometimes this is what happens when you've got it and it's just too short. So, actually, we haven't ruined this one just yet. We may have, but you have to put a very delicate balance between the pressure of the, well, when you're doing a little piece. When you're doing a bigger piece, you basically slight pressure here, and then harder and harder pressure on this part, which actually has a button, a spring, almost like a mechanical switch, that presses down and presses the razor end out of its holding compartment and actually cuts it down. So what we need to do is kind of get it started, but like I said, with not too much pressure. Oh, there we go. Oh, I think it's cutting. Yeah, it's cutting. Just run it slow, nice and easy. Oh, pop out of place. Oh no, it wasn't cutting. I didn't see it. My arm was moved. See, maybe that one. It's thick, but it's not too thick. Something like this. I think this one's gonna be able to cut. Although it's not gonna be an even cut. At least we will have. We should have at least one usable strip out of this, I think. Let's go ahead and put you over here. Oh, moved it out of place. Let's try to get it as much in the middle as we can, or at least so that we can get a straight line out of it. All right. This time's working. Oh. Let's actually go ahead. Oh, let's see. Go down. Yeah, that didn't turn out quite like I wanted it to, but like I said, we'd end up with one strip. And it's a little jagged, but again, doesn't have to be perfect. Set you aside for a minute. Are we still too thick? Yeah, we're still a little bit too thick. Like I said, we want to do our best to avoid blocking any of those holes. That's where we pull out the scissors, and we're gonna butcher it a bit, but we'll make it to where it's not gonna interfere. I mean, this is supposed to improve it. We don't want to damage it, or we want to make it worse, or make like I said, make one hole of the sockets on the plate to where it's going to be a little bit more difficult for the hot swap switch to go in. So, like I said, it's always a balance of time and money. But I mean, this hobby is always going to consume a little of both, right? It is a rabbit hole that. I mean, we choose to go down, and obviously no one's holding a gun to our head. That one's too skinny. I'm going to go ahead and throw it away. I don't think there's much I could use it for. All right, so now I think we're good. We might have a couple of spots where we can touch up after we lay down, Obviously we have that screw there, so we're going to have to cut that away. But what I find easier, and I did it on the first one, is just to go ahead and peel off the sticky from the get-go and cut as we go. The stickiness lasts pretty good. I mean, obviously don't take it on and off too many times, it will start getting lost, but for the most part it works pretty good, and it is what I have found the easiest way to lay down. Alright, so we try to go to the bottom and to the top and try to match. Alright, oh, but we gotta make sure it's sticking. Hey, how about you stay? Okay. Alright, right there, that looks good. Alright, so we're gonna start pressing. And when we're pressing, we're running our finger down, providing pressure so that it sticks, but also holding it down. Not stretching it too hard, but making sure that it is a nice, tight, snug fit. Basically don't want any bumps or bubbles. So that's why we're just holding it tight and then running our finger with a little bit of pressure so that we make sure it sticks nice and solid to this lane. We get to the stud, let's go ahead and snip off an end of this. Let's clean off the ends we've already got on this puppy. Right there. Alright, and I mean, yes, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Actually, oh, it's cut. Alright. And then right here. Alright, let's see, this one might actually work along the edge here. Let's see. Oh. All right. stabilizer alone. We do have to do some cleanup here. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Oh well. Alright, so we've gone ahead and cleaned it up here. Basically just gotten rid of any foam that was interfering there. So what we're going to do now, we're going to gently, I know a lot of people like to be roughhousing with PCBs, but I come from a day where you had to wear little wrist collars, static shock, because we could easily kill a PCB. I mean, you can still do it, but it's just not as common, not as probable nowadays. But that said, all right, I'm gonna put this puppy on here. Make sure. No, so we got the studs that go through that actually connect up to here, and we got the studs that go through and attach the plate to the PCB. And we've got 5 that attach the plate to the PCB. We'll go ahead and set this back. All right, come on, little guys. And I like to, especially when I'm using electric, I'll give it a twirl in. Don't ever tighten them until they're all in, and don't over tighten them. These are pretty good. These electric screwdrivers are pretty good at not over tightening them, but you can force them. Just give it a little, about 2.5, 3 turns, full turns in there. I don't know, I'm guessing probably more, but it's probably about halfway in, if I had to guess. But don't tighten them until they're all the screws are in, because what could easily happen is if you tighten one just a bit too hard, it could line up and go in, but what's actually happening is you're stripping the screw, because the screw is being forced to go in at an angle because it's too tight at one end. This can happen with a lot of different things. It's always best to put them in, but not to fully tighten them until they're all in, and to not fully tighten them until they're all. Alright. Now we got it in, and you can see it's nice and loose. Now we want to center this puppy. A good way to do that, actually, even though, I mean, I know, what? You're saying, what? We want to be really, really careful, because not like putting in switches, I like to be able to test it. But right now, what we're going to do, we got some plate mount. Yeah, these are plate mount. Alright. Let's take whatever switches we got. If we have a 5-pinner, let's do a 5-pinner. What we want to do while it's loose, we want to very gently get a switch in there. Alright. See, we barely use any force at all. I like to do 4 corners and then maybe 1 or 2 in the middle, depending. So, I like to go cross corner actually. Let's go right here. We got a little bent leg there. Let's straighten you out a bit. We got 5 pins. Let's make sure you're down. Alright. Make sure you're going in. You feel like you're going in. Yep, you're going in. Nice. Nice and easy. No force, no force. We want to make sure that we're going in and we're not damaging anything. We want to make sure these puppies stay nice, free, and safe. It's got a bit of a bent leg. Alright. So if it gives you any bit of struggle, don't force it. Take it out. See what's going on. Because you should be able to just wiggle it in, and then with just very little force, pop, pop. Alright, yeah. These are not the switches we'll be using here, but like I said, I just went ahead and thought I grabbed these because these are right handy. And then let's go ahead and put one in the middle. I mean, that's an extra safeguard, but why not? It won't hurt. That's how easy this should go in. If you're putting any more force, you're taking big chances. you are taking big chances. And I like to go from the center out and across corner. Like I said, I'm going to tighten it all the way. Let's stop. Stop. That's it. It's done. I like the smart torque on here. Oh, that stops, and that's it. So now we can see we do actually have some space there. But because we've added the silicone and we've got that now, technically, yes, we could have added a layer on top. Is that a good idea? I'll leave that for you to decide. I've done it. I really, honestly can't say that I saw much of a difference at all. Okay, now that we've gotten those in there, we really don't need these anymore. So, because these aren't the switches that are going in there, we may as well. Sucker! If you ever get a switch puller, get one of these. It's a Gateron switch puller. It saves me so much time. And most of the time, sometimes it wants to be a pain, but most of the time, I just start talking good about you, and it's actually on the plate. That's why I usually do it with inside the case. So. It just wasn't grabbing it. It didn't even scratch up the plate. Listen, I like it a lot. It's well worth the money. It's like $25, $30. I wish they were 15. I really think that's the price they're worth. But it really does save some time. All right. Now, before we put this in, now, obviously we already made sure that it fit. Here's another mod that we're going to do. Now, this is actually going to help in the fact that we are actually not fully foaming. We're not creating a layer that's so like sandwiched that we might actually have a trouble with the switches going in. And that's why we're doing that. Really, just more to protect the board than anything else. But what we are going to do, here we go, is we are going to do the tape on. Now, what this does is, again, yet another barrier of sound condensation or protection or capturing, whatever you want to call it. We are capturing that sound and we are keeping it where it should stay. Well, not really keeping it, we're just basically muting it, if you want to go technical, I guess. So pennies tape works just great. I like these nice thicker pieces. I think these are 2-inch pieces. Usually it takes 2 or 3 to cover a board, not more. And then, do about 2 or 3 layers. And this is going to actually give us a little bit more space between. A little bit more tightness with the case, but just slightly. We're talking, tenths, hundredths of a millimeter, if that. Definitely thousandths of an inch. Just kidding. All right. If no one got that joke, I guess I'm just too dead to really care. So anyway, one more piece. And I know it's not perfect, but you know what? Works just fine. Alright, and then we're going to come across here with the scissors and make sure not to cut into the PCB. We're going to cut around and make sure that all we've got is just enough that's not going to interfere with anything else. It shouldn't, just to make sure. We like to cut it as close as we can to the PCB. On both edges. to go ahead and press down on it. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfectly stuck, but the more that we stick it, the better. The more it's going to capture. So, yeah, we're just... Right. The studs, you say? What are the studs, you say? Now, I used to go through and actually painfully go through and carefully make out the holes. But in a lot of these cases, because, I mean, this is just painter's tape, and we are dealing with metal screw, this is an issue. Now, watch me try it this time and it doesn't work, and I'll just be eating my words. But alright, so now that we've got the tape, we're going to go ahead and slide this puppy in here. We should be able to get it to where the USB port is basically peeking out. Alright, so see, we're going to get some more tightness out of here. That's why we left room. Okay. I probably put just a bit too much silicone in there. Probably just a bit, but I think we'll be okay. Alright, so now, here's the moment of truth. Let's go ahead and take our screws. Again, same thing. Cross corner. Oh, that one didn't even go in. Huh. Oh, that's right, because we do have the, that's right, I'm going to eat my words, am I not? Alright, just pressing a little bit harder so that it goes through the tape. But we may have to make the holes because it's a tight one in here. Once it starts gripping, let go. Once we know it's actually got a grip, like that means it's made it through the tape. I know this is not a pointy screw, but it will go through that tape. I said we only got 2 layers, 3 layers, 2.5, whatever. Pitch actually changes once it starts going in. Alright. Last one. Alright. Tighten you. Alright. Tighten you. Tighten you. Tighten you. And tighten you. Alright. Alright, see the USB-C port. I mean, we're virgin on the edge, but if we take the port and go ahead and we can plug it in. So that was a close call. That was a really close call, but we're good. We're good to go. Now alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. Come back, we are going to be installing these blues, and we're going to be putting on this keycap set and seeing how this puppy looks. But I mean, for now, let's just put the RGBs back on because I kind of like that. Alright, so we're at the last stage here of our modification. We've added tons of weight and gotten rid of all that hollowness inside of the case. Gone ahead and put one switch in there just to give you an idea. Now this is a tactile switch, so there's going to be some click. We're looking more for a Thocky kind of sound, not a silent sound. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the rest of these switches. Plug it in to test my keyboard, or keyboard tester, I think is what the site is. And that's where I'm going to, I like to use that just to ensure that these are going into the slot. Alright, so let's minimize this. Alright. Now let's go ahead and plug you in. Alright. So I did pop this switch in just to kind of hear how it sounds, but we're going to be going with these new set of switches. So I'm going to go ahead and take the original ones. Best place to store them would be in a bag in the original box. Oops. So let's find a bag where we can stick these in. They should fit. This is some of my Gazoo Boba stems came in. Shout out to Gazoo for making one of the best switches out there. And those are my favorite. I mean, I like a lot, but if I had to pick only one, it's going to be Gazoo. This box wants to go take a ride. Alright. The keycaps out of the way. Just in case you guys are wondering what's going on my 3D printer. This is the top case. I'm printing right now it's going to be a gasket sandwiched 60% board. So I'm putting that out right now. Putting the bottom part of the case out right now. Alright, so those can go away in their original box and go for storage later on. Well, actually, I'll be giving it not that she'll actually use them, but alright, so let's go ahead and pull out this switches and get them loaded. Akko switches, again, like I said, they're great switches, but they only come in 3 pins. I do prefer the 5-pin, although I mean there are some boards that don't have the holes and you end up having to cut them off, but I'd rather have that choice than not. So with these, we just want to be a little bit careful when we're putting them in. That's why I bring up that's not up right now, my keyboard tester, so I make sure that it's in there before I go ahead and press it in. And again, you never if you're pressing with any amount of force, something's wrong, and take it out. Check to see what's going on. You don't want to use more than like 4 times what a heavy spring is, so no more than a pound of force. If you're doing anything more than that, something's wrong. Most likely the leg is bent. But I like to put it in a little bit at an angle first, make sure that the pins are in there, and then just press it on in. Now another way to do this, if you've already got keys on the keyboard, is to go ahead and put it into a lighting mode that activates when you press a key, and then you can do it without the keyboard tester or a website. You can do it just on its own, because the light will turn on and give you the signal that, hey, it's actuating. Those pins or those legs are in the sockets. Alright, now that we've got that done, let's go ahead and put these switches away. We've still got a few of these glues. Let's see if we can use them for something, maybe some modifier keys since they are tactile. Now we're going to go ahead and, oh, that's what I forgot. Strap for this. And now comes the keys. And this is supposed to be compatible, but We'll see. Alt function. And we've only got the 3 single keys over here, so I think we're going to be having to make a substitution, unfortunately. Alt function. Alright, now I'm going to give you a sound test, but it's going to be in a quiet room. So, we are done with this keyboard. So, this is a fun little build here. I think my friend is going to enjoy it. We will close this out with a sound test. Like I said, any comments, any suggestions, anything at all, I would greatly appreciate it. Want to see what you guys think of this board. Sound test coming next. Cheers. Sound test RK61 with Akko CS Ocean Blue switches, stock, and a Miami Shine 3 keycap set.